Alrighty then, quick-ish little video in response to or discussing the Nintendo Power or Nintendo Switch 2 announcement. And to a degree how this relates to Nintendo Power retrospectives. So the announcement came out, new Switch announced. I'm looking forward to it, pick up the Switch 2. We'll see if I actually pre-order to able to order the thing fairly early. Um, it took me some time to get my other consoles, Xbox Series X, uh, PlayStation 5, and even in the case of those, Series X I was able to get because they had more or less a subsidized version where you in getting it, you're also getting a year of you're getting a year of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, and locked into a year of Game Pass Ultimate and doing a financing thing, and that basically was how I was able to get that. And I believe the PlayStation 5 I was able to get because got a Costco membership. I have a Costco membership. So unless we get a similar pre-order thing through Costco for the Switch 2, probably it's gonna be a bit. We'll see how things go. In any case, uh larger screen, by extension from looks like the design, bigger game Joy-Cons looks promising. Um I will say though, with my Switch, like I do not use my Switch with the Joy-Cons. I got the Hori add-on pack, uh, Hori grips for mine, the Hori grips for mine, because, well, put a long story short, I spent about a year and 3/4 of my life working in a absolute hellhole of a uh, call center, what would be described in Japan as a black company. And one of the ways it was a black company is that you didn't get a ergonomic keyboard for, in spite of all the typing that you're doing at your work on a regular basis, without a doctor's note, which means you had to have carpal tunnel already. Needless to say, my wrists were not happy with me by the end of my time there. That was only a year and 3/4. Um, I did like after that, like even partway through that, part of the thing that my finances went to was getting a uh frankly a ergonomic keyboard for for home use. And even then my keyboard at home and my mouse at home, I have an ergo pad for my phone, for my mouse. I have a or wrist rest. I have an ergo pad not coming up well with the pseudo blue screen effect, or background removal for my keyboard. Um, Even when I'm using a lap board that I have, I'm also using the keyboard wrist rest with that. Um, and so when I was playing the Switch using the Joy Cons on the Switch unit undocked, that was not comfortable on my wrists. When I took the Joy Cons off of the Switch and put them on the little mounting unit, also not comfortable. I actually didn't even bother getting a uh standard pro controller. What I ended up doing was going through, because they tend to be on sale more often, a variety of Hori control of not Hori, but of 8-bit Do controllers. Currently my one I'm using now has Hall Effect joysticks, and I like it a lot. I'm Speaking of which, with the issues that the Switch had with stick drift, mine, to my knowledge, did not have that. But also, again, I didn't use the Joy Cons very often. I generally tended to use aftermarket controllers. Again, currently using one with the Hall Effect sticks. I'd be interested to see if they've done something similar, or there's other similar solutions that have been developed as well. If they're using those on the Joy Cons, or if we're just going it alone. So not going alone, but just going with what's previously been done for cost purposes. But I'm hoping that it's just a case where I unpair my 8-bit controller from my current computer, or repair, I should say, pair my 8-bit Switch controller. This one actually shows up. This one actually shows up in spite of the Pro controller. Let's see if that works on the Switch 2. Be nice if it did. I also picked up earlier the Switch, the one's more of a USB GameCube controller. I never actually cracked the box on it, but for the purpose of Nintendo Power Perspectives, I may end up picking up the Switch Pro, the Switch GameCube controller. And speaking of which, how this relates to Nintendo Power Perspectives, with getting GameCube support in the game in Nintendo's sort of emulation service thing. I am interested to see how this works out. The Dolphin emulator has done wonders in terms of developing and progressing how to handle emulation for the Switch, for the uh, GameCube, and making things look good on modern televisions. I'm interested to see how well that plays out with the Switch 2. Certainly, whatever does go up on there is going to be closer to the original version in terms of like translation, not a lot of quality of life outside of standard emulation features in there. So that is something would point in favor in terms of when I get around to that system in Nintendo Power Perspectives, maybe playing that version of the game. Partially because also that's the version that's probably most easily available, particularly since some of these games are hard to come by. As far as the game they've announced, like the Fire Emblem game and that sort of thing. GameCube games in general apparently hard to come by. So there's that. Announced games, a lot of them are releases of games that we have gotten on other platforms, which is fine. Which is honestly fine. The advantage of having, like, yes, I could play Elden Ring on a Steam Deck. Not everyone's got a Steam Deck. Also, the Steam Deck is big, bulky, and heavy. And one of the big selling points that they gave for the Switch is the Switch isn't. It's similar thickness. So, which means it's thinner than the than the Steam Deck is. So that's got that big advantage going for it of, hey, I can play Elden Ring on this, on the go, on the larger screen, and it's probably going to be lighter. That said, I don't know what the battery's going to be on this. Because that's kind of going to be the proof of the pudding here. Hopefully, it's going to have a really solid battery life to it, and you can play these big games for a significant period of time. One can only hope. I would also wait to see some of the games that when they got Switch releases required a degree of cloud support and there's a network connection, like Control and Witcher 3, getting re-releases like, hey, here it is, now in 1080p, and Switch to enhanced version, now in 1080p, now without requiring cloud support. Also, it's just nice bigger screen, and you can play it that way as well. Those would all be like nice things that I'd like to see happen. That would actually be probably one of the closer points that if Nintendo's going to go, okay, we're pushing up against the Steam Deck here. How do we compete with the Steam Deck? And the answer is by making a system that has probably a little better specs than the Steam Deck. Maybe doesn't it will play Mario, which the Steam Deck won't, not at least not legit, and is lighter, and you can undock it easily undock it and redock it with your television to play games in multiple modes. We'll see how this works out. I would be interested to see, particularly since they're getting Fortnite in here, if Nintendo also goes, and Fortnite's not the only online, like, major online game they're putting on here. We're just going to put on Final Fantasy 14, or if Microsoft, or we're putting Path of Exile 2, or 2 or 3, or we're putting no, Path of Exile 2 is one now, or Warframe, or maybe even if Microsoft decides, yeah, we're going to do we're finally going to do the console port of World of Warcraft that people have been wondering about for decades. Here you go, console port of World of Warcraft, not just on Microsoft consoles, also on the Switch too, or something. But that last one is total hyperbole, total um, theorizing, talking out my nose. But it would be a nice, like, similar sort of thing. Hey, we're going to put online games on here. Again, that's one of the, like, putting Fortnite on there opens the door for, hey, other online service based games that are particularly popular and have presences on the competition theoretically could show up here. We'll see. If I was going to pick something, I would probably go, of the three best options. I would rank Final Fantasy 14, because that game's already got controller support built in. Number one. Number two, Warframe, similarly, and also it's not as, like, interface wise, it probably scales better. And then number three, Path of Exile, because with Path of Exile, I do wonder if they worry that their little sphere grid thing and their graphical interface stuff might, like, even with that large screen, might be a bit too small to be usable, to be doable in that fashion. Other things I'd be interested in seeing how that plays out. Games that do stylus-based interactions, like, for example, Mario Maker, or with the Etrian Odyssey games. I'd be interested to see them doing something where, okay, for these games, perhaps we patch in a gameplay mode where we have mouse support, where you can switch to mouse functionality for drawing on your map or that sort of thing while the game is in docked mode. And then when you're in undocked mode, you can do the styles like normal in Etrian Odyssey, or in Mario Maker. If you're in handheld mode, everything works like usual. When you go into docked mode, you can put it into mouse mode and use it and use the mouse that way on one of the Joy-Cons to then place items with more precision in your level design. If they're going to do that, my suspicion is the proof of concept is going to be an update to Mario Maker or a revised version of Mario Maker. Probably update to existing Mario Maker, just because that way you're keeping the same level library across platforms and keeping your existing install base and keeping everyone who's invested a lot of time and effort into Mario Maker 2 on the Switch happy. So that's that's the likely possibilities there. Otherwise, like, I'm not going to say I'm not going to say there were no surprises. There were surprises, not the least of which was chapters 3 and 4 of Deltarune, and the fact that, in theory, assuming it isn't delayed again, Silk Song's supposed to come out this year. As far as the game, everything else goes, I like that. I like the fact that we're getting third parties back on board. I like the fact that EA is like, okay, we missed the boat last time. We're coming back on, and we're bringing Madden and EA Football FC. It'd be nice they brought college football too, but I understand when they're starting with their big two sports franchises, football and also football, or football and other football, I should say, to the Switch. Not surprised we're similar same thing with 2K. We're getting WWE and uh getting our NBA 2K on there as well. I am pleased to see that with Civilization, they're getting on board right away with mouse support for the Switch 2 version. And that's actually probably the telling thing, because if on the regular version, if the mouse interactions can be performed on the touch screen when undocked in the Switch version, that would be telling for other games using similar stuff. Last but not least, in terms of things that I'd like to see going forward, and with it, if the smallest mouse interaction stuff works out, and say the HD Odyssey games did as expected or better, if this would lead to, say, the Persona dungeon crawler games, which ran on the same HD Odyssey engine, getting a Switch release, then like getting a similar Switch remaster, that would also be wonderful. Finally, of the game on this thing, which was like, what's the game that I want to get right away when it comes out? For me, that is Bravely Default. I did not beat the DS version, and I think to a degree, playing it on the Switch would probably actually work better for me than playing it on the DS. Because the DS, I much still love the DS. It's only handheld, and sometimes like, okay, my eyes are tired from working from a long day at work. And yes, even with glasses and all that other stuff. Like I don't feel like looking at my handheld screen right now. And that's something that one of the things that these hybrid consoles like the Switch, or being able to make the Steam Deck go between handheld and plugged into a dock mode, is like, okay, I walk around, I'm in the front room playing with the cats, I'm on my commute, I play on the Switch. That way I come home, I put on the dock, pick up a controller and play it, and I like that. And being able to do that with default would also work well for getting me to move along with that. And honestly, like when the Tactics Ogre remaster came out, I got it on the Switch for that reason, for a similar reason. If Final Fantasy Tactics Remaster comes out, I will buy that on either PC, if it works well on Steam Deck, or on the Switch for that reason. And that's where I'm at for all of that, pretty much. What are you looking forward to on the Switch 2? Will you be trying to order it early? Will you wait and to see if there's any hiccups with these early releases, or like stick drift or that sort of thing, or for the battery life? Is the $450 price point because of Trump's tariffs um too high for you? Let me know in the comments below. I am looking forward to hearing what you have to say. I'll see if I can get it. We'll see how this all works out. But that's going to be coming. But I will put that in the comments to say, since this will be coming out after the Switch 2 goes available for pre-order, I will put in the comments whether or not I was able to get one. And certainly when I get one, I will probably do an unboxing video. I've did unboxing videos for other consoles before. I've done unboxing videos for my some of my anime media purchases. This feels like something worth doing an unboxing video about. Also, if Hori does the D-pads, the custom grips, or the larger grips for this, I'm definitely going to pick those up, because again, I've done dirty by my wrists and my fingers and my joints over years and years of heavy typing in a call center technical support environment. And anything I can do to keep them functioning longer and put off having to do any nasty and uncomfortable surgery is something that I
2 days later.
Hello, quick addendum from the Edit Bay from Alex, recording this on April 5th. The previous segment was recorded on April 3rd. It was the Thursday after the Nintendo Direct was with the Switch 2 whole presentation happened. I recorded my video the following day, and then the day after I recorded that, the full nature the full nature of Trump's tariffs kind of came through, and Nintendo decided that they were going to scrub the current pre-order plans for the Nintendo Switch 2, and with it, the price was now once again up in the air. So, with that in mind, as of this recording, which is before the planned pre-order date, but also almost a month before the episode's due to go public, I going to put an asterisk on the whole plan of whether I'm actually going to be able to put in a pre-order on the Switch 2 at the time of they go live. For a variety of reasons, price reasons. We now like the previous price was $450. I could probably not probably I can handle that with like considering that there's a month before it's actually out. That's something where like, okay, I could set money aside for a couple months to be ready for that and put on a deposit for my pre-order. Probably a lot of places are going to have a pre-order option to trade in a Switch original for this, get a discount on the Switch 2 or as partial credit towards the purchase of the Switch 2. So yeah, that was doable. Now that said, if that pre-order becomes, if the new price is say $600, $650, that becomes trickier, and they start needing to looking at for things like what happened, what I did with when I got my Xbox Series X, where I went through a firm and did a payment plan that way, or other stuff like that, and see what real retailers have that available. So that's going to make things interesting, to say the least. And again, that's not necessarily assuming that, oh, we're not actually going to take pre-orders for this, for if they decide they're not going to do that, or if they decide we're pushing back the release date. Although admittedly having put the planned global release date in your big reveal trailer and not having put the price in there does imply that Nintendo suspected something like this was coming and wanted to try and cover their tuchus to avoid embarrassment should the price they put in their original video not be viable. But they did put their release date there, so if the part that they thought the part that they were confident about is something they are no longer confident about, that's definitely going to be a whole thing. So yeah, that's a big thing. One other minor note: Nintendo's put out their list of games that are currently up in the air in terms of backwards compatibility status. Some of them are actually games that I own or are planning to purchase soon. On my wish list. For example, taking a quick look at the list now, for the ones that have startup issues, these are the ones that will not load, period. A lot of Arcade Archive releases. Also, stuff like in terms of games that I directly own. The Let's scroll down for a second. Yes, Saviors of Sapphire Ring, Stranger of Sword City Revisited. I own that. The Switch is a great console for dungeon crawlers, and that's actually a pretty good one. Pretty good pair of those, and that's currently not functional. Other similar ones, we have Undernaut's Labyrinth of Yomi, another dungeon crawler. I think one's actually more on my wish list than I don't think I've purchased it yet. That's on there. So like that's a couple of not huge games in my library. Like there are some huge, actually huge games in the library. Like Street Fighter 30th Anniversary Collection has issues post boot. Like it'll boot, but then they'll run into problems while playing it. I do recommend. I'll put a link added link to the show notes with the relevant compatibility issue report, and that'll give you the current updated status as well. If you haven't put in your pre-order yet, and you're thinking about putting in a pre-order soon, that'll give you an idea of, okay, with the games in my library, what games are going to run, what games aren't. I will say the list of games that won't launch at all is interestingly longer than the list of games that do launch. Like the list of games that do launch, but have problems after launch. Again, that's where Street Fighter 30th Anniversary Collection falls in. That's where Mega Man Legacy Collection falls in terms of like looking at this in games that are in my library. Also, a few more archive titles. Alan Wake Remastered falls in there. So this could be a situation where we're going to get possible updates for those games, either from Nintendo operating a system level or from the publishers to make those games more Switch 2 compatible. In those cases, it will probably be, or I should hope it would be, a free update, because charging $5 to make your game not broke on the new hardware, not a great look. But I don't think anyone's going to do that yet. If that does happen, that's I may do a video about it, but I'm also probably might end up deferring to somebody like, say, Jim Stephanie Sterling, who's going, if that actually happens, you will hear from them about it, because they will not be happy. They will be angry, and justifiably so. So that's where we're at there. Yeah, so I will still have in the notes if I placed a pre-order, and if so, I will even put with whom. It's probably not going to be GameStop. I've kind of mostly cut my ties with them after the whole mess with Game Informer and how rudely and nastily they handled the whole thing. That combined with the game industry our retail is suffering because of like trying to blame DEI for poor performance of their stores is a whole lot of BS, and it makes me even less inclined to do business with them. Spoilers, if somebody is saying that DEI is the reason why their business is suffering, that's not why their business is suffering. It's because they suck. And not like both in a they suck as people sense, and also they're probably like being bad at what they do in a lot of other senses, cutting corners, creating unpleasant and inhospitable work environments, and that sort of thing. So yeah, that pretty much wraps this up. I've almost gone for about as long as my original recording, maybe a little long, not quite as long as the full recording, but almost half significant chunk. So the TLDR, I recorded the original video before the podcast, before the whole thing was delay of the pre-order. Still be notes on whether I successfully did pre-order the thing in the doobly-doo and from where. And yeah, it won't be GameStop. Probably will be either Best Buy, much as I don't like how they've been getting rid of physical media, or I don't know, maybe even Costco if Costco has it up for pre-order. Like that was how I got my that is how I got one of my consoles. I think possibly even my the Xbox, like that was Xbox Series X. No, it was the PlayStation 5. I got my PlayStation 5 through Costco, and that worked out pretty well. So if the Switch 2 becomes available for pre-order there, let me just get it through them. So that's the plan. If you manage to get a hold of one, you manage to get your pre-order in, let me know in the doobly-doo. Catch you on the flip side.
Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed the show, please like and subscribe. And also consider backing my Patreon. Patreon backers get episodes up to 1 week early of this show and any future Let's Plays. Also, please consider backing my Ko-fi. Toss me a few bucks also helps support the show, and it's not a monthly obligation or anything like that.